Is everybody in? Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin.
This is very real.
Fantastic.
This drug is dangerous.
Wrong.
You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about. Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Shut your little punk ass up.
But the more you hate me, the more you will learn.
Hey, welcome to the Autoflower podcast, where we chat with growers, breeders, and anyone relevant to the Autoflower cannabis community. I'm Chad, I'm your host, and I sure do appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I want to give a huge shout out and welcome the new Patreon supporters, Captain Knots, Jesse, Heavy Yielder, Flower Mama 89, Casey, Black Spot Growers, and Phil. Hey, thank you guys so much for signing up and welcome to the community. For the month of October, all the podcast, there's only like 4 shirts. The podcast merch will be 10% off when you use the coupon code October10 at checkout. All the sales are actually done through Etsy, so you can be sure that your info is safe and secure. To visit the online store, go to autoflowerpodcast.com and click on the shop merch button on the front page. Our guest this week has been growing for a couple of years. He's an indoor home grower who grows autoflowers in cocoa to provide himself with medicine for pain relief. He trains his plants with low-stress training, also known as LST, and is going to share his personal grow methods with us. I love chatting with different growers because we all grow a little bit different, and it allows us to kind of peek inside each other's gardens. So please welcome to the Autoflower podcast from Instagram, SpacementGrown, everybody. Cool, man. So give us a little bit of background on how you got started growing.
Well, I don't know, I've been smoking. I'm 42, which is crazy to me. Doesn't feel like it, but somehow I am. Just been smoking my whole life, and never even thought about growing. Or, I mean, obviously I thought about it, I just never had the setup, or never just thought that I would. And then I started using, I noticed that edibles had helped my back pain. I've been dealing with back pain my whole life too.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, dude, it like dominates everything, sitting, standing, laying. You gotta keep moving your position, to keep it at bay a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that edibles had helped that more than smoking or anything else. And then I've been in Illinois, we've had the medical program, I don't even know how long, but about 6 months before 2020, I joined here so I can buy RSO at the dispensaries, because our dispensaries are a ripoff. The edibles are like $35 for 100 milligrams. The RSO is like 900 milligrams for $50. So you buy that one, syringe of RSO, and that's 7-8 edibles for a little bit more. So that's how it started. And then once recreational hit in Illinois, we got the rights to grow. Only medical can grow, and we get 5 plants over 5 inches, which is really weird. Other states do different stages of growth, which I think makes more sense than 5 inches. It's a really odd thing to choose. So I was like, let's try it out. I had some time to save for gear, and I bought it slowly, and around like Black Friday I think I got my AC Infinity stuff during a Black Friday sale 2019, and so January 2000, actually New Year's Eve going into 2020, let the seeds hit the water for the first time, and first 2 runs of 5 were, I did it. I started out using Sohum soil because I wanted that water only, in quotes, water only. And it's my fault too, because I didn't. The bags say 7 gallons or more, I had already had bags purchased when I bought the soil. I'm like, what's the difference, So they did good. They made it through. Leaves get all messed up, and I don't know. I would do teas, and um, I think I didn't top dress until the second run.
You ran out of
But
nutrients in that soil?
oh yeah, dude. I mean, well, it's one of those things where it's like I don't know if it was over or under, and because there was like some kind of issues almost. I don't know. Once they started turning into like a full size plant, which none of my first run got really big at all. I got plenty of smoke out of it, and I was happy because I mean I grew it, and
Yeah, for sure.
it was mine, which is just. Everybody should get that feeling. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
It wasn't that good. I mean, no, the quality of it was good, but the plants were not that great.
Yeah. So you ended up kind of steering away from soil and going into cocoa, huh?
Well, yeah. So I tried Sohum and then M3, and then the nutrients that I use now is called Dakine 420. They're out of Oregon. They're powdered. So they're not like you're not buying a bunch of water. But a person that lives, because I was in local Facebook groups, like Illinois, we all sort of went legal together, talked about our plans leading up to the 2020, and one of the local growers around here had invited me to this Dakine 420 group. I never planned on using any nutrients at all, and they had a grow off, and everybody got the same seed. Everybody got a pack of all their nutrients that would last about a plant, and it was like their whole line of stuff. And then they make a cocoa too, and they have this like, I'd say it's like a half-gallon container, and everybody got that. And then that was the grow container. So it was really neat. Everybody got this little care package of everything they needed. And it was the first plant that I was able to get from seed to like right before harvest. She started fading a little bit, not even that much. Like the leaves were like perfect. Like I didn't have to chase my tail, be like, oh, do I do a tea and then wait 2 weeks? And like I said, the organic thing is sort of my fault because I was only in 5 gallons. They should have been more, but still, I just feel like the control is lacking there. If I had 10 gallons and like real amendments that I built myself, I've seen some amazing stuff. So people are obviously killing it that way.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just like a game changer for me. So I bought some Dakine, and then the next run I did half and half. I did two cocoa, 2 in soil. And the 2 in cocoa, I was able to get them all the way to the end pretty much again, except for the fade. They were beautiful, and they were monsters. I mean, I got an auto pounder out of that run from Maggie's Auto Farm. It was a Pineapple Head Express, and dude, this one plant was probably equal to what my whole first, maybe even my second run combined in this one plant.
How much was it? A pound?
I got 1 pound out of my Pineapple Head Express, and then I got 10 plus ounces out of Think Cheesy from Maggie's too, which are known to be big. So, I mean, genetics were huge in that as well. But
dude, a pound like dry after you dried it and trimmed it and everything?
It tripped me out, man. Yep, it was.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
How long did it take to grow? How long did it from seed to harvest? Do you think?
I'd say 110 maybe. It was over 100 days. It wasn't much over, but it was definitely longer than normal.
Still.
But dude, and it was the first time I had to buy bamboo stakes. I had to, because it was these big flopping things that are just falling all over. And I moved my plants around. I wasn't training them at that point in time, but I still move them in and out to water because I'm in a 4x4 tent, and you can't really get in there and do it, especially when you have those things in there. So every time you move it, you got these like things like flopping, man. It was nuts. So she was bamboo stakes everywhere, tied up to them, and it was wild, dude. It was. I will never forget that grow. But from that point on, I actually left a whole bin I had of used M3 that I had just bought this soil charge pack stuff, which I was trying instead of I had used Nature's Living Soil for top dressing before, but I wanted to try this soil charge pack instead, and I made a whole bin of it because you have to do it 30 days or so before, so I didn't know the results when I made it and spent the money on it. That run ended and I left that whole bin. I mean, we used it for like out in the garden outside or something, and I went and bought another bag of cocoa, and that was it. I still got a little bit of M3 in a bag, from like a year ago.
So you're in a 4x4 tent. You grow in cocoa.
4x4 tent, yep.
And then what kind of light do you use?
I had bought. You ever heard the Mehu or Medju or something? It's one of those brands you get off Alibaba.
Oh, okay.
It's basically an HLD clone. Like there's a kabillion quantum boards out there now.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought 2 of those, and it cost me like $300 for 2 240 watt boards that were like Samsung Meanwhile drivers. So I was using those up until the grow that I'm starting right now. I'm Spider Farmer had hit me up, and you know how they give you the small light, and
Mm-hmm.
I actually used the SF1000, and I told them, I'm like, I would only want to like get something that's better than what I have. Luckily, I had one SF1000 for my 2x2, and I wanted more than 100 watts in there if I was going to dedicate using that tent. So they sent me another one, and they daisy chained together beautifully. They like it was like a perfect match, and I was able to run it at like 75%, and it did a great job. It was like 150 watts ish in there, So once I showed them, hey, I bring value to you, I was able to negotiate a little bit. And so I got this the SE5000. It's their bar style, which they actually already updated since it just came out recently. Like when we first started talking, I'm like, I know you guys are going to have a bar style out, so once that comes, we'll talk. And it came, and we talked, and luckily by the time that I was going to get it, she's like, do you want to wait for this updated one, or do you want to take the one that's out? And I'm like, oh, wait, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I am so glad I waited, man. It's like the design of it's way better, it looks way better. The other one is still awesome, I'm sure, but this one that I got now, it just looks so clean. It's awesome. It's great so far. I mean, I haven't flowered anything with it. This is going to be a good test for me, because before with my quantum boards, they were each running at 260 watts from the factory. Like I didn't change them. That's just what they said on the kilowatt thing. So I'm going from like, I had another light in the middle at some point. So I'm going from almost 600 watts of boards to 480 of bars of the spread clean, even coverage. So it's going to be a cool little like thing. Like, can this even 480 watts do better or equal to almost 600 of the boards? I think it can. I mean, but we'll find out.
Yeah. So walk us through your grow, man. Let's go like step by step. So how do you germinate your seeds?
All right. Well, yeah. Going forward, I'm still probably going to soak 12 to 24 hours in distilled water and peroxide is what I've done. And then I'm going to go straight into the pot and stick a cup over it for humidity and stuff. And I just did that for the first time, literally after having those nightmares with my Jiffy pellets. And I think 2.5 days was one of them. I think 2 days and 2.5 days they came up.
Oh, and, cool.
Yeah, so it worked, which I knew it would work, but I still resisted it.
Yeah. I did like my first time in the soil. I did my first where you just pop them in. But I usually soak my seeds for 24 hours and then just pop them into the soil. But this time I didn't soak them. I just stuck them right in there, and I was like antsy, chomping at the bit, waiting for them to come up, But they all germinated, dude. 100% germination rate.
And you didn't soak nothing right out of the
No, I just put them right into the soil. I soaked the pot, and then I didn't soak it. What I do is like I'll slowly water it until I can just barely start to see a little bit of runoff. When I say I slowly water it, man, I mean like slowly. Because if you just pour water, it'll just start coming out the bottom sometimes. So
you're in soil, right?
Yeah, I'm in soil. So I just slowly water it until I just start to see just a tad of runoff, and then I stop, and then I let it sit for 24 hours, and then let it acclimate, and then I stuck the seeds right in there, and just put some humidity domes over them, and let them go. Man, some of them were up in like 3 days. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, it was cool.
Did you water at all after that, or do you spray it or anything, or just let?
No, I just let them pop up, and then they went for like 6 days before I had to water.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
but anyways, sorry to get sidetracked.
No, but that's what's good about soil is the time you can go if you need to. Versus cocoa.
So you used to do Jiffy pellets. I like that too. I've done that too.
They were great, man, and they kept them in a confined space. I could put them on a seedling mat.
Mm-hmm.
But this last time, it just for the same thing to happen to more than one. Obviously I did something wrong.
Yeah.
But so everybody swears by this in the pot, and I tried it. It was successful this time. So that going forward, that's the way I'm going to do it.
And so you're having some sprouts right now coming.
Oh yeah, I got a black strap that is just over a week. A Think Different, that's about the same. And then Anvil and Galaxy Brain just popped up like yesterday and the day before. So they're about a little bit less than a week behind.
Nice, dude. And so those are all in cocoa.
All cocoa, yep.
Okay.
Royal Gold Tooper. I've really liked. I used a different one first. I forgot what it was called, but this Royal Gold Tooper, I just like the feel of it. I like how it waters. It holds water enough. Like with my 5 gallons, I'm using 3 gallons now.
Mm-hmm.
When I was using 5 gallons, it was easy to only water once a day during flower. Like it was never really questionable. With the 3 gallons that I switched to, just to sort of see the difference, I have to hit that 24-hour mark. I mean, I'm sure I could let it go, but I've listened to Dr. Coco enough to not let my cocoa dry out,
Yeah. Yeah. So when do you typically start feeding? So if your seeds came up and right now you've got some babies in there, are you feeding like right away, like every 24 hours already?
Yeah, super duper light. The water, even the water that I soak the pots in before I put them in there, is usually CalMag water, and I think I did like an eighth this time. I sort of experiment between just CalMag or like CalMag and like a quarter strength. But this time I did an eighth strength, sort of playing in the middle, and I'm still there now. I'll probably bump the 1 weekers up to a quarter, probably the next day or two, and then work my way up to a half, and then sort of see where that gets me. If I get any burn, a little tip burn, I'm cool at a half. Usually I don't have to get past the half with this Dakine. It usually is pretty good. Sometimes I'll bump it up a little bit, just to test the waters. Do like 2/3, just sort of start adding just a little bit more, And I've never really burnt them, so that's good. I mean, I've obviously got the little bit of tip burn, which is what I've been told is sort of that you're right there. So either back up a tiny bit or just keep it going. And it's ever since I've been doing cocoa and Dakine, my I would say I'm averaging 8 ounces per auto. About.
Nice, man. Jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you can cocoa, man. That's
dude,
one cool thing about cocoa, dude, is you can just grow some monsters.
it's
Hey,
insane.
that Dakine stuff, is that do they have, like, are you using a veg
Well, they have,
nutrient or
yeah. So they have the normal 3-part. It's a grow, a base. So the base goes from beginning to end. The grow is like the first. Um, with autos, the grow is probably the first 3 weeks, and then I will start mixing. There's like a 3-week overlap on their chart where you sort of start lowering the grow and raising the bloom, introducing the
oh, okay.
bloom, and then you sort of work it to where it's just bloom and base, and then at the point where the grow is out, which is usually about 3 weeks into flower, then you can add. This is optional. I bought a kit that came with it, but it's called Shock and Awe, and it's basically a bloom booster. Like
Okay.
there's a million different kinds out there that do the probably similar things, but I've had really good luck with this stuff, man. And then like every week they recommend to do one watering a week of just beneficials, just sort of keep the cocoa clean as salt. And I've experimented with that, doing it every week. I'll 6 days food, 1 week water, and this is called atomic root powder, and the stuff sticky icky, and then CalMag always. I mean, CalMag's
Okay,
in
so
there.
you're kind of like once a week, you're almost kind of flushing your
Sort of
cocoa
a
out,
flush.
and
Yeah,
kind
and
of
I'm
getting
not.
the salts out and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not really like watering more than any other day. It's just that it doesn't have the food in it.
I see.
Yeah, and I've gone to where I haven't done that, and I thought I started noticing a little bit of problems. So like I try to do it at least every 2 weeks. I don't always do it every week. There's just some days where, because I'll make 5 or 10 gallons of the mix. Because it's, I mean, you're on a scale, you're measuring it. So you don't want to do that every single night.
Yeah. Are you
you know,
using tap water?
well, I have, I took a splitter to my washer, my cold water on my washer, and I got an RV filter on the end. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's still pretty. The ppms are still sort of high, but the chlorine's not in there, and that was my main concern. I haven't had any issues with like the ppms being too high, because I'm not really. I'm not pushing the nutrients to the full ppms they recommend anyway.
Are you measuring ppm when you? How do you or do you just go by the nutrient directions?
I don't really measure going in unless I'm having problems, and I try every week or two to at least get the runoff ppm, just to. And if when I'm doing the runoff ppm, I'm obviously checking the stuff I'm putting in first to sort of
compare.
see. Yeah, and like last run was one time where I was sort of skipping the weekly flush, and I also I'll blame it on this. What do you say? I didn't let enough runoff come a few times, because I mixed up just enough, and I'm like, I'm not gonna mix anymore. It's like 2 a.m. I'm not gonna mix anymore to get a little bit more runoff. It'll be fine, And that happened a few times, and I didn't think nothing of it. And then I was, measuring my ppms, and they were like, I don't know, double what I was putting in it.
Oh no.
Yeah, I didn't notice too many issues with the plants, just a little bit, which is why I started checking. And I ended up buying this Flora Clean or something, which I just ran it through there, and just to get the ppms back to where they were. And then I think I'm going to try to be more, strict on that weekly or bi-weekly flush, or 10-day, something in that period, just to keep it clean.
Yeah. So when do you decide to kind of up your nutrients and push it more then? Are you waiting to like a specific stage, or just a specific age?
I sort of just wing it, because the tough thing is with autos and having to switch the food around. It's sort of a tricky balance because when you flip a photo, you're not seeing anything yet, and you do start adding bloom nutrients already. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? So you sort of got to try to get ahead of it almost. So I try to be up to at least a third to a half by the time that I do flip,
And you're
or that,
talking
that I flip,
strength,
that I
right?
change. Yeah, yeah, a third or a quarter strength, which at this point is just going to be the grow and the base
Hmm.
before I start adding in the bloom. And then once they start going and bloom is when I'll be a little more aggressive with, if I'm at a third and I've been because sometimes I'll stick at a third for a while if they seem happy, and I don't need to get nothing crazy. They're shaping up the way that I like. They are you know nothing looks out of the ordinary, or you can sort of feel when they're not happy.
Hmm.
You sort of being like, man, what's wrong with you guys? Tell me, please. you
Yeah.
know so like but I'll be more aggressive during flower, and I think the most that I've ever done in auto is like 2/3 strength, and that wasn't more than maybe a few feedings or maybe a
Hmm.
week or so.
Yeah. So when do you decide to switch, and how do you do that as far as tapering off from the veg to the bloom?
Well,
At what age do you do that? Or
I say about 20 25 maybe I would start to lower the grow, and I sometimes I won't necessarily follow the exact ratio of them. I may just want to introduce a little bit of bloom and a little bit less grow just in case, because
hmm.
they can be flowering at 30, maybe it's 25, maybe it's 35. But I'd say around like day 25 I would probably at least start
But you're just
getting it
introducing
in
like
there.
a small amount to get them
Yeah, just a
used
little
to it.
bit. Yeah, and then like there's a 3 week period where it's blended, and each week you're gonna
Okay.
have a little bit less grow and a little bit more bloom. So
Hmm.
I would say week 4, I'm definitely in the middle of the transition for sure. I'm starting to transition week 4, so week 5, 6 is probably that. 4, 5, 6 is probably that period,
Hmm.
and then the rest would be bloom. Obviously, and I guess it is sort of a decision too when to cut the grow and to just do the bloom. That's why I guess it's everybody says autos are easier, but that's complete nonsense. Like photos, like
Yeah.
I know I started this day. If you want to be easy about it, just follow the 3 week date on the bottle and you'll be good. With autos, you're sort of having to gauge it and guess almost.
Yeah, it is. It is a little bit different, man,
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I can't say that based off of experience, but I think I had mentioned in one of the previous episodes that it is a little bit different because you don't have that veg period and stuff, like with a photo, or you can control when it goes into flower.
man. Let me tell you though, I told you I got a 2x2, and I decided to just run a photo in it while I got my 4 autos in the tent. So like right now, I'm gonna be vegging them all together because the tent's big enough before the autos get big.
Mm.
Like once they're big, 4 fills the tent, but until they're trained out and at a decent size, I mean the fifth one fits in there perfectly.
Mm.
So like for now, I'm just growing the I got a seedling photo going now too at the same time as these 4 autos, and she will be in the 2x2 when when I need the space, or probably when I put her in a 7 gallon. I'm doing it's cool because it's just sort of um, letting me experiment with different things that I don't do with autos. I don't really
Hmm.
pot up. So I'm like starting. I did the Jiffy into a solo, and then I got a 2 gallon that I had for some random reason that just made sense to go up to. And then I'll go from the 2. I got a 7 gallon, and I'm actually using soil for that too.
Oh,
The
all right.
the last plant that I harvested was a photo, and I sort of, you know, I enjoyed it. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
nice. It was uh, I love them both, I guess, for different reasons. But it was super cool to be able to make sure that they are where you want them, health wise, size wise, time, like schedule wise,
Mm-hmm.
before you decide to, you know, change that light schedule and do it.
Yeah.
So that was super convenient.
Yeah, I could imagine that would be super convenient, man. You know, and then
Yeah.
you can kind of control if you want to have a smaller plant, you can flip it sooner. If you want a larger plant, you just veg it out longer. And
Yeah,
if
it
you get
was.
a really good strain that you like, you know, you can clone it and keep it alive. There's a lot of pros,
Yeah,
of course, to growing photos. You know,
yeah.
I don't think anybody denies that. Um, yeah, I just like I don't know why I love autoflowers so much, man. And maybe it's just because
It's a
I
challenge.
haven't grown photos, you know. So maybe it's just that. Maybe it's just something that I just don't know because I don't have experience in it. I'm just so embedded into autoflowers that I just can't see myself growing photos right now. But I do have two tints now, so maybe one of these times I'll
Experiment,
use
dude.
one tint to grow a photo and use another tint to grow some autos and see how that goes. You know, I'd really like to do some breeding that way if I'm completely honest with you, but we'll see how
That
it goes.
Yeah, that would be fun too. Like that's one thing I would like to experiment with, but with these plant counts of 5, it's like, do I want to grow, like, because for me, I like the growing. I obviously like the medicine that it produces, but I also like, you know, the photos and everything. And it's like I don't want to dedicate to a male, or just, you know, having, you know, pollen floating around the house. I'd have to probably move the
Yeah.
tent somewhere else. So it's just like, I think that's another reason. Like, I think autos are fun. I think they're challenging. It's sort of funny that like they're in charge, you know, like with the photos, like you're sort of more the boss, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
autos are sort of the boss, which is sort of funny. Yeah, I think it's just, and it's exciting, you know, like what are you going to get? It's almost like, you know, throwing 4 dice into that tent, and hopefully you
Yeah,
do
for
the work
sure.
to get them good.
Yeah, for sure, man. So do you do any type of training and stuff like when you're in veg before you hit flower, or do you just kind of let them grow naturally?
No, man, I would say I'm pretty heavily LST. I
Yeah.
will top if they're very vigorous. Like this black strap, man. I've probably only topped like 3 or 4 of them, because if they're not growing super fast by like day 15, I'm not taking the risk on it. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
just don't think it's worth it. I can build huge plants just training them. So
Mm-hmm.
why take the risk? But like this black strap, man, this thing came out at the same time as this Think Different, which is a known monster strain too.
Mm-hmm.
And this blackstrap is like double the speed in 24 hours, and those are the two that survived the Jiffy
Oh
incident
yeah.
this time. Yeah, and in 24 hours, blackstrap was up, and I've never seen this in almost 2 years of growing. The taproot was almost 2 inches out the side of the Jiffy in 24 hours, dude. I It blew my mind.
Things on a
And
mission, huh?
oh, dude, and she is about not quite double the Think Different now, but she is an obvious size, you know, definitely a size bigger than the Think Different is. And all of the black straps I've seen have just been monsters too. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of wrestling back and forth in my head. Do I top her or not? We're only day 7, so I'll have to make that decision in a week or so. But
Mm-hmm.
she's definitely checking the boxes for my you know, my requirements to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen some crazy looking photos of that blackstrap,
Dude,
dude.
it's
Yeah.
insane. It's
Yeah.
it's it's like anvil but darker, you know, and bigger. It seems in some places. So
Yeah,
yeah,
pretty cool colors, huh?
yeah,
That dark purplish
yeah.
black almost, you know?
It is. It
Yeah.
is. That's a great name.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah. So like training is my my thing that I think that's probably my favorite. See, I don't have a favorite. I like taking photos just as much as I like training, but I love training because it's sort of like painting a picture blind,
Mm-hmm.
and then like opening your eyes like a couple days, a couple of weeks, month later, and be like, how did I do? you
So
know.
how are you training? Like what are you doing? Are you just pulling the branches out, or do you bend the whole plant over
Well,
and grow it
well,
sideways?
I have evolved every grow. At first, I was super timid, and I only did tying down with what the hell are those things called? The colored pipe cleaners.
Oh yeah.
They use for arts and crafts, which suck because they leave colored stuff everywhere, like little fibers you find in not in the buds too bad unless a bud grows around it, but it's enough to be annoying. Or the green wire, and I would tie them to binder clips, and
Mm-hmm.
then I sort of like just added new tools. I was watching, I think it was like Green 75 or something.
Oh yeah.
Dude's crazy, and he uses stakes, and I'm like, man. So I was chatting with somebody, and he recommended getting this. I think it was 12 gauge roll of wire, and just making my own. So I bought 100-foot roll of this stuff and just made a bunch of stakes. And man, I swear by those things now. And when early on, like I can start hitting them with a stake, like man, day 10, 11, 12, you can at least start putting a little slight bend on them so they'll be
Mm-hmm.
able to bend when they thicken up. And until they are at least as far as the edge of the pot, I don't do any tying. It'll be pretty much all stakes. Like
Mm-hmm.
you'll see the bottom of my plant when they're done, and I'll pull out like 30 30 stakes that had just been in there. And sometimes I'll pull them out later in flower because it's a pain in the butt to
Yeah.
water. But those are amazing. And then I've added, they're called Cannabenders from Extreme LST. If you haven't checked out his site, check out on Instagram Extreme LST. The dude, it's like debauchery of plants. Like he has these couple plants that have been vegging forever that he just practices his. They're basically like the clips, sort of. The LST clips, the 90
Mm-hmm.
degree bends, but they have holes in them, and they're just like a round thing that you put the plant in the groove, and then you actually use the green garden ties to attach it to it.
Hmm.
And then you put it. You'll understand what I'm saying if you go check out his site, and it's worked really well for me for getting like the main stem down, because tying that down is sometimes scary. But you could use these cannabenders. You put it in there, and you can sort of tweak the top hole and just sort of pull it down a tiny bit every day. And they're really really neat, dude.
Huh.
But I don't use them as often as I use the other stuff. But they are definitely a part of my toolbox now.
So you are pretty much just bending the plant over then.
Yeah, just with different methods, like I said, the ties, the stakes, and then the cannabenders,
Yeah.
and clips too.
And so you'll start doing that as early as like day 10 sometimes, depending on the plant?
Yeah. If it's day 10, it's just like a light, like a small degree, just to sort of put a stake there, just sort of get it going, and then you just sort of work it down a little bit more as it grows. And then as each thing comes out, they'll get their own stake. And, sometimes you'll add more stakes down that same branch. So one branch may have 3 stakes leading out to the end of the pot, which at that point, if it gets really big, then I'll put a tie down on that stake. Once it's like weeks after that point, the ties come out like late.
So when do you typically stop training it then and letting it go?
Man, I will be adjusting throughout for different reasons. For shape, I mean, I'm stopping, probably when I start seeing, flowers start coming, I'll stop like being too crazy with it. But then later, I will adjust to maybe move stuff around to get light in a different spot, or put some air in between spaces, just sort of shuffle things over a little bit sometimes, or I'll take all the ties out and then maybe just tie only in a few places, just to sort of just to give air to more places.
Yeah, and then so like what what do you do when it hits the edge of the pot? Do you let it grow straight up? Do you stop the
Well,
bend?
so from that point, that's when I will use a tie, which can only get it, like you said, to the end, and then I call them runaways when they usually in the middle, like the outside, I'll probably usually those are the bigger ones, and I'll let those go up if if it all, I guess it all depends, but the middle runaways that sort of shoot out from like the main stem,
Mm-hmm.
there's really nowhere to tie those without being really messy. So that's where those LST clips come in handy, um,
Okay.
and you just sort of bend them. And what's cool about the clips is that you can sort of take those little runaways and then point them in different directions, and then you can even like put the clip on a different place and in a few days later, and you can. I've had some that look like they go back and forth, they're like a zigzag or something, because they're just moving them around, and
Hmm.
it's sort of fun. But by the end, my plants all pretty much have every one of those things on them.
Oh, okay.
Just sort of just play it by ear, like what do I want to do?
Yeah.
I actually had a different thing that I found. I had these little tiny clips that I seen on. I used honor bags. They're
Mm-hmm.
really cool looking, dude. I wanted them since I started growing, and I finally started buying them in stages. And now this is my first tent with 4 honor bags, and I'm pretty excited about it.
That's cool. Yeah, those are cool bags.
Oh man, and the owner's really cool too. And he posted something on his Instagram, these little tiny clips that he's selling for use with his bags. And he wasn't selling them yet, so it's not like I went around and bought something else, but I went on Amazon and found something like it, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just little mini. They're actual drape clips, for drapes or something, or for window drapes type thing. It'll hook on and hang them, so that on the edge will actually grab onto the stem, and I don't have to tie anything down. When they make it all the way out, I'll clip it on the bag, and the hook will go right around the stem, and it'll sort of hold that branch all the way down to the edge of the bag, which was just like an accidental find, but it really was it really helped. It kept it clean and worked great.
Oh, cool. And then so from there you just let them grow upwards, huh? Let them just
Let
get
them
those
do their
colas
thing,
going.
man. Yeah, let them do their thing.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I love LST, dude. There was one time where I completely like kind of just bent a plant over early in its life at like a 90-degree angle, and I just loved the outcome of how it looked. It just had these giant long spear colas just coming out everywhere. It looked like I topped it, but I didn't.
Yep, yeah. That's when you know
Yeah.
you did a good job, and that's why it's like painting with your eyes closed. Like it's just so cool. It's the anticipation of, I think I did good, but
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
Yeah. So when you get toward the end, so you're just doing your thing in cocoa, you're fertigating once a day, you get all the way down to the end. When do you decide to start like back? How do you do that in cocoa? Like at the end, are you,
Like a flush or not flush, or like what do you
yeah,
mean?
are you
Yeah.
just kind of backing off the nutrients, or do you just flush for like a certain amount of days and then it gets a really quick fade?
You know, that's another thing that I've messed around with, and a lot of it comes down to schedule.
Mhm.
I don't have. I have the My Herbs Now dryer, which is what I got when I first started growing, and people talk all kinds of crap about it, but if they use it correctly, it's awesome. And
All that matters
on
is if
many
it
side by
works.
sides
All that
for
matters is
you.
if it works for you, dude.
Oh, dude,
Then
it works
you're
great,
good to go,
But
man. Yep.
exactly, but I started growing bigger plants, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not accommodating to that. Um, you could
Right.
stuff a pound in there if you really wanted to, but anything over a half pound is just uncomfortable. It's a lot of work to stuff. Like basically, it's if I hang dry, I got a wardrobe box that I put lines across, like a wardrobe moving box. I put 2 rows of lines in it, so I'll use that to hang, and then I'll use my dryer. Um, it's like the opposite. When I'm using the dryer, it's a whole night of prep to cut them down, to get them off the stems, and to line them up and stack them up.
Well,
When I'm doing,
sorry, dude. Sorry to interrupt. Let's
I
just
skipped a step. I guess.
let's back up a minute. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay, man. So, so when do you decide that like you're getting? Well, I guess I should ask you first. Like at the end, what do you do? Do you flush? And if you do, like for how many days?
Okay, yeah. Now I know how I got set off track too, because like I was saying, I determine based on scheduling of where everything is at, because I am limited on the drying, spots. I can fit 1 or 2 plants in my box, and I can fit maybe 1 in the dryer. So some make it a full 2 weeks, and it would just be water, or water and fish shit. Usually, I pretty much do fish shit all the way through. And then some make it a week. Some, it's just, I may be like, oh man, I'm leaving to go somewhere out of town for a weekend in 4 days, so that one I'll just chop it without flushing and put it in the dryer and be ready. So a lot of it, I honestly haven't noticed too big of a difference between whether I did 2 weeks, 1 week, or no flush. Honestly,
Oh, okay.
some people claim that the ash or they can taste it. I don't really think any of that's true. I mean, I've never tasted. I don't know what my nutrients would taste like, I guess, but
Yeah.
I don't. I've never grown anything that I thought was.
Well, there's a study done by, I forget which university it was, but there's a YouTube video out there actually, and there's this study done and about flushing, and they determined that like it doesn't, it's not. It's hard to explain almost.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with like flushing nutrients out of your plant. So like you're not smoking your nutrients, you know what I mean? But flushing does have an effect, and they think it's more of a stress shock effect to the plant that enhances it for us, and not necessarily the nutrients. But yeah, that's.
Yeah, like I prefer to if everything is lining up properly, I prefer to, but not exactly like you just said. I will do it because number 1, you're saving on nutrients. Number 2, it's easier. I don't have to mix any nutrients. And number 3, I like a nice fade. If you can get one, it doesn't happen every time. But if you get a nice fade, that's a nice bonus.
So when do you decide to flush? Are you looking like for certain trichome maturity?
Yeah, I'll take like macro photo. I got like a macro lens for my phone that is good enough. It's actually easier than those digital microscopes that everybody has. Those things are a pain in the butt to see anything with. Like to get it steady and to focus it right is really hard. I will use that too, but I can take a macro photo that I can zoom into and see. So once I start noticing that there's really no clear, then I can, sort of make the decision on, I want to wait a little bit, or I can go now if I wanted to.
So what are you looking for? Like mostly cloudy or?
Just basically no clear.
No clear.
Yeah, no clear, and then it's sort of scheduling on when is most convenient to take it down. Like, do I definitely prefer to have a decent amount of amber. I mean, there's been times I've chopped down, and I've noticed, this has happened a bunch of times, that I've had autos that don't seem to really amber anywhere but the sugar leaves.
Man, that seems like most of mine.
Right? It's like like freaking 90-something days in, and like I go by other things too, by just, you could tell for the most part, with the hair. I know hairs aren't like the end all be all, but you can you get a good estimate on your plant looking done or not looking done. You know?
So actually, I shouldn't say most of mine, because I chop them when they're like, I'll get a few ambers. I usually do, but I'm ready to chop pretty much at that point, because that's kind of how I like it. I don't like too much of a stony body couch lock effect, but.
So what do? You see the amber starting, and that's your like go time, or?
Yeah, I just kind of wait until. Well, if I'm using nutrients, then I'll wait until they're mostly cloudy, with just a few ambers, and then I would, begin to. I never really necessarily flushed my soil. I would just do like water only to run off for like 2 weeks, and so I guess it was a very long, drawn out flush, so that the plant would fade and stuff. But now that I'm, pretty much just growing organically, I just wait. I just wait. I just wait until there's, mostly cloudy with some amber.
Yeah.
And if I can get it to like a 10% amber, which is, I know a lot of people, that's really low, but I usually try to nail it like mostly cloudy with like 10% amber, see an amber one here and there. That's when I usually chop it, man. Because they continue to mature a little bit too while they're hanging and stuff, so, but that's all personal preference.
Yeah, totally. And I think that where you're chopping is probably like the maximum, you know, retention of like, the way it is supposed to be, because technically amber is them degrading. I mean, technically cloudy is ideal.
Yeah, that's the way I understand it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, everyone just likes their effects and likes to do things differently,
Yeah, I like to just play around, experiment, and like I said, schedule and timing plays a big part. It's nice to have a little bit of flexibility, and like I'm not too preferential to, if I chop it when you're talking about, I'm 100% cool with that, or I can chop it when it's like nice and a lot of amber.
What about like, do you do any secret voodoo stuff like 24 hours of darkness, ice, and
no ice, but the darkness is a thing I have done, again, scheduling based, like, I don't want to chop tonight, but I am done with her. Let's just stick her in this spot for a day or two until I can, get to her.
Mm-hmm.
I do like to have the pot be light. I don't like to harvest when it's super wet. So I like to, stop watering. Like I'll try to at least foresee it a few days out, at least, to be like, okay, I'm going to stop watering now. Like you're good.
And then what does your dry look like? Where do you typically hang? In your tent?
No, I have a.
Oh, you told me already. I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah,
the boxes.
wardrobe box. Yeah, so a wardrobe box and a dryer.
And the dryer.
Yeah.
How long does it usually take for you in that wardrobe box for your stuff to dry?
Man, this last one, the purple Pope and this silver napalm I had, I think I got 12 days out of them, dude. It was nice. Yeah, it's not always that. I'd say between 7 and 12 is an average. I like to try to hit 10, 9, 10. I'm happy with.
Yeah. I wish I hardly ever get that long, man.
What were you gonna? What is your? Because I know some people say you crack this stem or that stem, or like, what is your, like, when are you pulling it?
Yeah, so I hang it. I don't trim it at all. I just I cut it and hang it, man, because I want as much of that moisture in that plant as possible for as long as possible, because it's so damn dry here. So I'll usually chop it, hang it in the dark, and of course, but it's usually dry like in 7 days.
Well, 7's still good. I mean, 7, some people, you get all the Facebook warriors, low and slow, you got to be 14 days or this and that. It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah, if I could, I would, if I'm honest. If I could, I would, man, but I can't.
But I bet you're happy with it. I'm sure
totally.
It comes out good.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I just can't. If I could get a perfect long dry, then I would, but I can't. Yeah, I can't. Even controlling the environment as much as I can. And because it gets hot here too, so like if I got to run the AC, then that's sucking the what low humidity is in the air out.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't.
So it's right? Like I'd have to invest in like some giant humidifier and like it just is what it is. It is what it is. I just dry the best I can in my environment. You know what I mean?
You should, man. You should talk to that Scott dude. I know the dryers are like pretty low in supply now, and some crazy stuff happened with all that, but like, dude, no joke, man, like they work great. Like I will I've been using it for almost 2 years, and I've experimented with pulling early, pulling late. I will start checking on when using the My Herbs now at 60 hours or 48 hours. I will, check, and between 48 and I'd say 60, 65, I'm usually pulling at least some of it in a jar with a hygrometer, and if it stays around 60, I'm good to go. Like he says to do the 96, or some people even go more. I think I heard like Jack Greenstock talking like 100 plus hours. I've never, I don't think I've ever even gone the full 96 or whatever it's set at. I've pulled too early before, I've pulled too late before, but that's why some people say it sucks, because they mess it up and they jar it up and then they wonder why it's crap. But just like when you're hanging, the dry doesn't stop at the jar. If you pull it too early and jar it, you just messed up all the time and love you put into that stuff.
Yeah, I've had Scott on an episode.
Oh, you have? Oh,
yeah, dude, and yeah, actually,
I'm sure I listened to it. Obviously, I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah, so my issue is, dude, is that like I've just, if I'm gonna spend money, it's always gonna be to get my grow to where I want it, which after a few years I'm just now getting to.
Yeah.
So, now I've got like the equipment that I really desire. So now, like in the future, I can maybe spend money on some of those extra type beneficial things that I, aren't necessary, but I would just like to have. So,
well, the thing about the dryer is that it is necessary for like some people. Like when I got it because I didn't have that box or think about making that box, and I was worried about smell and space, and so I think there's people that have conditions that make hang drying hard or even impossible. And
the other thing is with that Herbs Now dryer is, I know that Nebula Hayes from Grow Weed Easy did some testing with it and stuff, and they were saying that like it's not really ideal if you live in a dry environment, because that thing is providing heat and air. So like I'm already in a super dry environment, so I'm not so sure. So I've never really I just can't really justify it. Not that it's overly expensive. I think it's like around 100 or 150 bucks or something.
It was reasonable, I thought. Yeah.
But I mean, to me that's a that's a chunk of money to me.
Yeah.
And I just kind of pass on it for now, because I just don't know if it would be good for my environment and stuff. So maybe in the future, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Just to test it out, because it's like I said, if you're happy with yours, it's not necessary. But some people it may be.
Yeah, I just wonder about already being in a dry, hot environment, adding more heat and air.
I would think you would have to for sure probably humidify the area.
Yeah, maybe put it inside of a tent and. Maybe but then if I'm doing that, then I'll just hang dry.
Exactly.
So, but whatever. Tip and teach their own.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, we're getting close to being out of time. But man, I appreciate you coming on and just sharing a little bit about your grow and what you got going on, man. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, you have a good night, dude.
All right. You too, man.
All right, thanks.
See ya. Thank you so much for listening. I linked SpacementGrown's Instagram account in the show notes if you would like to give him a follow. I hope you're hanging in there and doing well. I hope your growth is flourishing, and I hope you guys have a great week. Until next time, see ya.
Nicotine, alcohol, good drugs. Coincidentally, tax drugs. Ooh, how does this fucking work?
The dried leaves and berries are ground up and made into cigarettes by a simple hand machine. The deadly narcotic is thus quickly and easily prepared for its market. The sale of marijuana is even more difficult to detect and halt than the traffic in drugs such as opium, morphine, and heroin.